Good afternoon. Before I start this little segment, this little piece off, this is why it's called wet fabric. We're going to explain two things about wet fabric. Before I start this little segment, this little piece off, pause this nonsense. Bam. Here we go. Let me load you. However, now that I got the fence, bam. Sound's out of there. Sound out of there. Oh, my goodness. As soon as the internet acts right. There we go. Thank you. Bam. So I got my guy Trump up on one of these pages. There we go. Because I'm gonna go through all of these and then I'm gonna hit you up. But wet fabric. Back to that initial point. Two things that it does. It can help. Well, the two things that I'm going to speak on, outside of all the other things that it does or that it won't do, is that it's fire retardant. Not exactly flame resistant, but it does slow down the fire. So it's fire retardant. And because of that, sometimes you're able to throw a wet blanket on a situation, you see. And sometimes a wet blanket might just be words. So let me go ahead and break it down to you like this. The report, the Mueller report, a lot of people thought that there was going to be collusion or whatever. I don't know what the hell niggas thought that was going to come out. All these people are up to illegal activity. So you understand that they can only look into so much, number one. And then number two, what they can expose to you, which is why it's a redacted or edited report, because they don't want to hurt themselves. Right on. Maybe something or things that Mueller was doing during the report was all damaging to Mueller. But I'm gonna play what Trump is saying, and you guys will start to get what I'm talking about. With wet fabric, you can use it to put a fire out, as well as it being harmful or hurtful when you're trying to undo it or unhinge it from itself, and it likes to stick together. But we'll talk about that later.
I'm having a good day too. It was called No Collusion, No Obstruction. There never was, by the way, and there never will be. And we do have to get to the bottom of these things, I will say. And this should never happen. I say this in front of my friends, wounded warriors, and I just call them warriors because we just shook hands and they look great. They look so good, so beautiful. But I say it in front of my friends, this should never happen to another president again. This hoax, this should never happen to another president again. Thank you.
We're going to stop it right there. What y'all got to understand is this. What he was saying was, let me copy this link and we'll exit from there. I'm going to drop this link into there real quick. Give me 1 second. Greetings, young man. You can check this out yourself later. Where are we at? Bam. Here we go. The other wet blanket I was talking about. The one that you don't need in your life, right? This wet blanket. So, all the famous people are like criminals or like hardened criminals. You know what I mean? Like, unless they're really looking at a time where they may not ever make it out, depending on the pedigree of the person you're dealing with, they may or may not fold. But when you're talking about regular people who may not have friends that are already, I guess, like politically inclined or involved, then they take other routes. And this is Mr. Bruce Isaacson, okay? I keep trying to tell y'all, this college admission shit is not going away. For all the schmucks and suckers who were like, it's just gonna fall apart. This shit's not going away. There's too many players. And there's too many institutions that were supposed to either help students or help the process of schooling that were all beneficiaries of such. This guy's Bruce Isaacson. Let's go ahead and let's break it all down. He's in a Boston courtroom recently among a dozen other parents implicated in a scheme to fraud a half a dozen top universities. Isaacson, a real estate investor from Northern California, was overshadowed by his more famous co-defendants. Stop right there. Why that is so important? Prestige in society sometimes will make people look past what is truly important. What we're going to read here later, I need y'all to understand how it's going to unfold. We're just going to keep reading. I've already read it, but I need y'all to get how it's going to go. It's going to make people, it's going to make whoever was able to hide in the shadows is going to be exposed. Let's just say it like that. A few rows ahead of him, unless this guy dies out of nowhere, that is. A few rows ahead of him sat actress Lori Loughlin and her husband, the designer J. Massimo Giannulli. Across the aisle was another actress, Felicity Huffman, whose gaze did not once meet the pack of reporters who trailed her out of the courthouse, then to the car that waited to whisk her away. But Isaacson and his wife, Davina, could now play a central role in an investigation that has shaken American academia and forced a reckoning over the illegal and legal ways money offers access to higher education. Stop right there. Now, I'm not going to pull up the article where Lori Loughlin is claiming parenting on steroids, which is a completely absurd claim. Either your kid is smart enough to get into the school or not, or they will get in there on another merit. But if it's based on just the fact that you may have went here and your parents paid to get you in and we're going to keep greasing the same wheels, then that's bullshit, because obviously it's not about competition. You see what I'm saying? And I don't want to hear about competition. It's just like a job, you know. If the machines don't work, don't tell them about production. It's bullshit. But let me keep it pushing. Of the 33 parents charged in the investigation, listen, of the 33 parents charged in the investigation, the Isaacsons are the only ones to have signed cooperation deals with prosecutors. Did you hear that? So 31 other people have signed no deals with the prosecutor. Cooperating. And you dig it? Everybody might have took a plea bargain, but nobody's cooperating with these motherfuckers. But these guys. I'm trying to tell you, the Isaacsons are about to blow this shit wide open. It'll be because of them that this shit gets blown wide open, not because of the Loughlins. The Loughlins are just, they're trying to take the attention off this Isaacson character, but this is who you should be looking at. A source familiar with the case said prosecutors wanted to learn more about who at UCLA and USC knew of an alleged recruiting scheme the Isaacsons used to slip their daughters into the university's ersatz athletes as athletes. Right on. Fake athletes, you know what I mean? Anyway. The source spoke on the condition of anonymity because he or she was not authorized to comment publicly. Prosecutors have alleged the colleges involved in the scheme are victims, not targets of the growing criminal investigation. Listen, prosecutors are saying that, but listen, just listen to how it's worded and then see if you feel that way. The 10 university coaches and officials charged so far in the investigation have been characterized as rogue characters who flouted both the law and school policies in allegedly pocketing bribes to admit the children of wealthy and powerful families as recruited athletes. But the Isaacsons' cooperation could provide prosecutors with another first-hand account of the recruiting scheme, whether any other university officials or coaches were involved. What they say could be of interest to USC and UCLA, which have launched internal investigations into what went wrong. The Isaacsons' cooperation deal at this stage in the investigation is significant, said Patrick Cotter, a former federal prosecutor who helped win the conviction of mob boss John Gotti in 1992. The admission scheme's mastermind, a Newport Beach consultant named William Rick Singer, has already been apprehended and pleaded guilty. Prosecutors are likely seeking new leads on new targets, and it appears the Isaacsons have convinced them that they have that to offer, Cotter said. I'm trying to tell you guys, they're trying to say that Rick Singer's not the only William Rick Singer's not the only one doing this. They're about look, this shit's about to blow up in a way that you guys have no idea. And it might not even blow up loud. It might just be cats getting snatched, and they might just throw them in an article for one day, and boom, but it's blowing up like as in the federal energy that's about to be poured into this shit is about to be crazy because they're about to come after people who have delinquent student loan debts. Why do you think they're ramping up the energy on the whole school shit? It's going to give them the reason to do it. So, and I'm just going to say this and get back to the article. What happens when one of these people got their child in school, right, on basic merit of who they are, and the child has student loans given to them, right, never graduated and hasn't paid them. And now they're like, you know what, we want our pound of flesh. What do you think they're going to do to people who have delinquent student loan debts then? See, it's bigger than rich people. And poor people need to start thinking outside the fucking box as to how this shit's really going to affect us. But it's okay, though. Until it happens, it hasn't happened. Let's just keep going. Prosecutors are likely seeking new leads on new targets, and it appears the Isaacsons have convinced them that they have that to offer, Cotter said. From what this couple have told the government thinks that they could have information that could lead to further arrest, Cotter said. The government seems to believe that they've got legally admissible evidence, and that's significant. Oh man, it's about to go down. In a filing last week, prosecutors said plainly what was rumored for weeks. More people will be charged in the investigation. I've been saying this shit already. I've been saying it while other people are like, ain't nothing gonna happen. Anyway, the prosecutors asked the judge for a protective order on evidence that will begin turning over to defense attorneys, saying the wiretaps, bank and academic records, emails, and surveillance photos they've amassed include information concerning uncharged conspirators and targets of the investigations who have not yet been publicly charged. So they don't want anybody who doesn't know that they're going to come after them, that they're coming after them. But by this getting out, you already, if you're involved in this shit, if you read this article or anybody emailed this shit to you, you're already hip to it. So this is how deep it is. This is why they're like, fuck, they didn't even want it to get this far. Prosecutors often pursue large-scale investigations in waves, hoping those charged in the first round will cooperate and yield evidence that can be used to charge the second, said Lawrence Rosenthal, a professor at Chapman's Dale E. Fowler School of Law and former federal prosecutor. Right, turn in 3 and you go free. Thank you very much. This shit is old as fuck, y'all. It's not new. Bruce Isaacson will plead guilty to fraud, conspiracy, money laundering conspiracy, and conspiracy to defraud the IRS. Davina Isaacson has agreed to plead guilty to 1 count of fraud conspiracy. If prosecutors decide the couple provided useful information, they can recommend that a judge lighten their sentences. Listen, man, so these niggas is like, look, we're going to plead guilty to all this shit, but the judge could, listen, man, I've seen how this shit goes. If they get some more motherfuckers, they're going to be like, we recommend that pretty much every fucking day of the recommended whatever the actual charges be suspended, and all the money and all that shit be. They might have to pay a little money, but they're going to get the fuck off this shit. I've seen it happen a bunch of times. So yeah, man, and the judge is going to be like, you do understand that that I don't have to follow the recommendations that are being put forth by the state, and that I could find you guilty on anyhow. They look, man, they could bang you from today to next week and keep banging you, and there's nothing you could do about it. And as long as you say yes, I understand, Your Honor, then they're gonna pretty much okay. You capitulate. All right, man, you're out of here. And that's how that shit goes. But hold on, we're just gonna keep it pushing. In his plea agreement, prosecutors recommended a sentence for Bruce Isaacson at the low end, come on, of the sentencing guidelines that call for 37 to 46 months in prison. For Davina and Isaacson, they suggested a sentence at the low end of 27 to 30 to 33 months in prison. So they're saying from 3 years to almost 4 years, and then they're saying from a little over 2 years to a little under 3 years for his wife. And they're probably gonna actually ask for these motherfuckers to get even lighter sentences. Man, this shit is crazy. In a statement, the couple said in a statement last week, the couple said that they were profoundly sorry, having harmed and embarrassed their children and disappointed their family and friends. We work cooperatively with the prosecutors, they said, and will continue to do so as we take full responsibility for our bad judgment. Their attorneys declined to comment for the story. Among the 33 parents charged, the Isaacsons are unique that they allegedly took part in recruiting schemes that breached two universities. The Isaacsons are accused of paying Singer $600,000 to get one daughter into UCLA and another into USC, court records show. Of the $250,000 they spent to ensure their older daughter was admitted to UCLA as a recruited soccer player, $100,000 went to Jorge Salcedo, the former men's soccer coach at the UCLA, according to an indictment charging Salcedo and six other coaches and officials at the university with racketeering. Salcedo, a former UCLA star who made the game-winning penalty kick in the 1990 national championship, resigned after being indicted. He has pled not guilty. No other UCLA employees have been charged in the scheme. The prosecutors alleged at least one coach on the UCLA women's soccer team was forwarded an email with Lawrence Isaacson bogus credentials before she was approved by a student athlete admissions committee in 2016. The Isaacson's younger daughter was admitted to USC as a recruited rower. She had never rowed competitively, prosecutors say. Two USC employees, Donald Heinel, a senior official at the university's athletics department, and Jovan Babic, the water polo coach, have been indicted on racketeering charge. They have pled not guilty. No one in USC's rowing program has been charged, but Singer told a parent on a call recorded by investigators and quoted in an FBI affidavit that an unnamed USC crew coach told him, "You guys help us, we'll help you." Cotter, the former federal prosecutor, said that it appears prosecutors think the Isaacsons have first-hand credible information. The government is not going to make a deal and offer leniency if all witnesses have to offer is third-hand hearsay, Cotter said. This isn't hearsay, it's not rumor. This is, I met with him, he looked me in the face and said this. But the structure of Singer's admitted sentence does not lend itself to tell all cooperating witnesses, said Rosenthal, the Chapman law professor. Rather, he said, it resembles a hub and spokes conspiracy in which everyone went through Singer and individual parents didn't know one another, compared to a will and spoke schemes in which everyone is connected. So he's saying that none of these cats really know each other, but some of these cats do know each other. First off, number two, uh, 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 you have to stay on the fact that this dude's not a famous dude, okay? And he still has the money to pay $600,000 fucking dollars to get his kids into school. So you need to really understand that you don't need to be a famous person to have WAP, okay? You just need to have a bomb ass job, and that's the bottom line, you know. So anyway, let me go ahead and just keep it pushing. Any one parent's knowledge of the scheme could be limited. And in Isaacson's case, Rosenthal pointed out that prosecutors make no promises and cooperations still to tell a judge they deserve leniency. The government is not saying you provided substantial assistance and for that you should be rewarded, he said. The government is saying we're going to wait and see. Some of the biggest spenders in Singer's scheme remain unidentified. One parent paid Singer 6.5 million. Holy fuck! U.S. Attorney Andrew Lelling said at a news conference last month. Another, identified only as the father of Yale applicant one, spent 1.2 million to ensure his daughter was admitted to Yale as a recruited soccer player. Pressed by a judge about the father's identity, Eric Rosen, Lelling's leading prosecutor in the investigation, there haven't been charges publicly revealed about the family of Yale applicant one. Harvard Westlake School has received subpoenas for records related to at least two students whose parents have not been charged. A person familiar with the matter said. Under their current agreement, the Isaacsons agreed to testify if called by prosecutors. Their testimony could buttress the prosecution's account and undercut an argument already being floated by some defense attorneys that Singer, who has already admitted to obstructing justice, is the crumbling keystone of the government's case. Singer pleaded guilty last month to 4 felonies, including obstruction of justice. He began cooperating with authorities last year in a bid for leniency. At the instruction of the FBI and under the pretext of being audited, he called dozens of his clients and spoke with them about their alleged involvement in the scheme. The government wants to corroborate everything Singer tells the jury, said Manny Madrano, a Los Angeles defense attorney and former federal prosecutor. The defense is going to aggressively attack Singer's credibility. So the prosecutors are going to use this couple to ensure that he's not the only one. He's not the only one describing the scheme. Okay, so stop right there. Let me just go ahead and break it all down from where I had left off to now. First off, between two people, 7 is it 7.7 million or something like it's crazy. $7.7 million between two people paid to this one guy. First off, I want y'all to understand something. Do y'all think that this guy's not he wasn't greasing somebody else's wheels for this to go down? You can't move like that and somebody at the highest levels not know. It's not going down like that. Okay? You got senators who will turn on the American people for a few $100,000 and for the house to get remodeled. So don't think that some of these dudes won't turn on you for millions of dollars that they were never going to get. You understand? Uh, uh, the situation is going to blow up in ways that people could never really imagine. But I'm just going to keep it pushing and keep it pressed. Man, this shit is crazy. Let me copy this one. And we're going to talk about both of these crazy ass situations here in a second. But first, I'm going to put this in this going. And here we go. So, I want y'all to really pay attention to what's going on in this one. And I'm going to talk about the wet fabric still here in a second because it's filthy how the whole situation is going. I don't have the article up about the wall. I'm gonna let that go for right now. Uh, uh, but it really is a really good article because it pretty much explains how, this time next year, they're gonna have a whole segment of the wall done and pieced up all the way together down there in Texas. But anyway, let's talk about this guy who was with gas cans and lighters at the St. Patrick's Cathedral. Philosophy teacher. So the wet blanket here are the security guards. Right on. Now, for that one little church over there, not little, but church over there in Notre Dame that got set on fire. I re- I did a little thing on my other little channel about the three black churches that got burnt up here. You know, I'll get to that in a second, but I have to talk about all this. Uh, this guy could be a Satanist, like the guy who burnt up the churches over there. I mean, yeah, down there in Louisiana. He's a philosophy teacher, but nothing stops him from being a Satanist. And you'll just listen to listen to his philosophy stuff, and then you'll get what I'm talking about. And then we'll get to this one right here, the "Not My Jesus" protest Pence, alarming conservatives. We're going to talk about that, and it's a big deal because these people are living in a time where they're using Pauline doctrine to defend things that go against the faith. It's like, once again, it shows that Paul is a dirty bastard, but I'm going to keep it pushing. Mark Lamparello's story seemed off from the start. It was near 8 p.m. Wednesday when Mr. Lamparello, a 37-year-old adjunct philosophy lecturer, entered St. Patrick's Cathedral in Midtown Manhattan, toting 2 gallons of gasoline, lighter fluid, and lighters, the police said. Stopped by ushers, he explained he was trying to take a shortcut through the iconic sanctuary to reach his vehicle, which had run out of gas, the police said. Mr. Lamparello's minivan, though, was not out of field, the police said, and the stroll through St. Patrick was hardly a shortcut. Spooked, church security officers flagged police officers as Mr. Lamparello turned to leave, sloshing gasoline on the floor. Mr. Lamparello, who lives in New Jersey, was taken into custody Wednesday night for questioning, the police said, but has not been charged with any crime. He has had prior run-ins with law enforcement and previously been arrested in New Jersey for trespassing, the fire department said. His arrest came just before Easter and 2 days before a devastating fire tore through the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. His basic story was that he was cutting through the cathedral to get to Madison Avenue, that his car had run out of gas, said John Miller, the police department's deputy commissioner of intelligence and counterterrorism. We took a look at his vehicle. It was not out of gas, and at that point, he was taken into custody. Mr. Lamparello is a doctoral candidate in philosophy at the City of University of New York. He was a 2004 graduate of Boston College, enlisted as teaching courses at Brooklyn College this spring. A philosophy academic, he had written and published his first book, Reason and Counterpoint, in 2016. That's funny. Reason and counterpoint is it's almost like an oxymoron, but I'm going to keep going. Mr. Lamparello's history with the church is murky, but his work suggests at least a baseline interest in questions of religion and higher powers. In 2016, his autobiography on Amazon.com indicated he was working on a book-length project wrestling with the existence of God. Here we go. At least one of the courses he has taught, Introduction to the Problems of Philosophy, touched on the idea of religion. The course included such topics as nature and scope of knowledge, meaning and verification, the existence of God, determination and free will, the mind-body problem, and the nature of moral judgments, according to an online course description for Brooklyn College. Ali Winston and Michael Gold contributed reporting. Well, now let's just go ahead and just look at this guy right here real quick, right? This is probably not what he looked like in the mugshot, I'm sure. So, uh, Mark Lamparello was doing whatever, looking crazy, gets caught up, right? Thinking that he's about to set a church on fire, like, fuck it. Some guy set a black church, three black churches on fire, but he's not realizing like, yo, bro, the churches are on lookout for cats doing shit like that right now. It would be just like if there was a drug bust in the neighborhood, and then there was another one, and then there was another one. The cops would be like, okay, well, we got to be in this neighborhood because there's probably going to be another drug bust. So it's just, I don't know. If you're a part of a certain community, it's only ethical that you pay attention to what's going on. And this guy right here, man, Mr. Lamparello, Schmuckatelli, another one of them. You know what I mean? Because Schmuckatelli doesn't come in just one shape, form, and fashion. He comes in many sizes. And this guy, he's just one version of him. And this version of Schmuckatelli, uh, I really can't understand how how this dude didn't get tackled and all kinds of shit. Like, it's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, bruh, there's no way. Like, first off, as an usher, it's like I would be like, I've never seen anybody. That's how the article should have been worded. Like, I've never seen it ever in my life. Somebody talking about I need to go through the church to get to my car because it ran out of gas. I've had people come here and ask for money for gas, but nothing like this. So it's like the whole situation is just like, man, what the fuck is going on? You know, and for these people who wrote the article to not like really demonize the dude because he came in there to set the shit on fire, and it just so happens that there were people there to actually confront him and do something about it. Now, what if this dude was armed and was like, I'm blasting motherfuckers and setting it on fire anyway? See, the whole situation is like, is way underblown because what didn't happen, you know. But really, that's why the counterterrorism, the intelligence, you feel me, the deputy of that shit, you feel me? Come on, man. The deputy commissioner of intelligence and counterterrorism, because this dude was about to do some terrorist activity anyway, and they always look like this. White dude. This time he happened to have darker hair and darker eyes, but still a white dude. Fucking chunk. Anyway, we'll copy that one. We'll put that in there a little bit. He's not that important, but I needed y'all to really see that, and because I needed y'all to understand that he's a philosophy teacher wrestling with the existence of God. And now you want to go burn down a church, huh? Man, get the fuck out of here, punk. These dudes. And so, not my Jesus. I need y'all to understand this is huge. Okay? This is huge. Uh, this is about people folding like a wet towel. Okay? That last article was a wet towel or a wet blanket being tossed on top of a fire before it could really get big. It was smoldered, as they would say, right? To smolder a flame. Uh, the first article was like that, you know what I mean, with D Treasy, just trying to go ahead and just put all this shit behind me and keep it pressing. I don't think y'all understand that wall is a part of prophecy, but it's okay. I'm just going to keep writing it out. If y'all do understand that it's part of prophecy, then forgive me. But if you didn't understand that, it's directly correlated to prophecy. No jokes. The walls are Texas and Arizona and California all in the same latitude lines, y'all? Do they all exist in the same perils of place, like where they're all straight across in the same size? No, they don't. So they're building walls, not just one. It's just considered one large wall, but it's walls. Respect the game. Come on, let's keep it pushing. Not my Jesus. Christian students protest Mike Pence, alarming conservatives. Why is this alarming, you say? Because the conservatives know that if these guys are going to protest Mike Pence, who is a tried and true to the blue. Uh, 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 what's the word I'm looking for? He's like the he's like a quintessential Christian guy. You know what I'm saying? So if if they don't trust Mike Pence, they don't trust nobody. You get me? Because he's supposed to have like that grandfather essence. You know what I mean? You know how like, and I never had grandparents that I really like. You know, I met my great grandmother on my father's side once. That was it. I never met no grandparents. I never had any though. Uh, but I always imagined that that you're like your grandfather could just like pretty much tell you like go sit down, do this, do and you just listen. It was like an unquestioned command, you know. And uh, this is a small place close to where he's from. And this is why it's also alarming the conservatives because if people where he's from, right, will will turn on him, right? Not exactly from his hometown, but just from his general area, right, of of his constituents, then it's not a good thing because that means that they're losing control and they're losing their base. You know what I'm saying? At the young level, at the youngling level, and the younglings being people who are just about to get out of college. Mike Pence and these guys know that they're not going to be around for much longer. Why not, stupid? Let's check it out. Vice President Pence, an evangelical Christian, has imparted graduation advice to a narrow slice of American students, those gaining degrees from religious colleges and military academies. Since his inauguration as president, Trump #2 in January 2017, he has addressed graduating seniors at Notre Dame, Hillsdale College in Michigan, Grove City College in Pennsylvania, the Coast Guard Academy, and the U.S. Naval Academy. Carefully screening his audiences has not inoculated Pence from backlash, however. 2 years ago, in South Bend, Indiana, more than 100 students of a few thousand earning degrees from Notre Dame walked out as Vice President Pence began to speak. One moment as it catches up to load up. The latest sign that even Christian colleges are not safe spaces from Pence came last week when Taylor University, listen, an evangelical school in rural Indiana, announced that Pence would speak at the commencement ceremony on May 18th as a former governor and congressman of Indiana. The vice president has a home state advantage at Taylor, a school of about 2,500 located in Upland, about 75 northeast of Indianapolis. Mr. Pence has been a good friend to the university over many years, said the school's president, Paul Wow Haynes, calling the vice president a Christian brother whose life and values have exemplified what we still strive to instill in our graduates. But not everyone at the non denominational school, whose mission is challenging each generation of students to integrate faith with learning and follow Christ's calling, is enthused about Pence's planned appearance, and it became clear this week. A Change.org petition asking the school to rescind the invitation has gathered nearly 5,000 signatures by early Thursday, with copious commentary appended. Appeals to university leadership has been plastered across the social media. Some are pledging to withhold donations. Not my Taylor, not my Jesus, one signer wrote. I love this shit. Listen, let me break this down. If this person who said that has never been the vice president of the United States, was never the governor of the state, was never a congressman, right? If they support faggot rights and men and women sleeping with one another and committing debauchery and being abominants, this person right here deserves to be stoned to death. And I'm going to keep it pushing. Even though I don't give a fuck about Mike Pence, the fact that their Jesus might be a Jesus that allows men and women to sleep with one another, right? Like, I mean, same sex. Their Jesus is that he just forgives everybody, loves everybody. Can't get down with that dude. I'm not fucking with that dude. Anyway, we're gonna keep it pushing. Inviting Vice President Pence to Taylor University and giving him a coveted platform for his political views makes our alumni, faculty, staff, and current students complicit in the Trump-Pence administration policies, which we believe are not consistent with the Christian ethic of love we hold dear. Wrote the petition's author, Alex Hoekstra, who graduated from Taylor in 2007 and since has held roles with the Democratic Party, including in Oregon and at the national level. Now, I want you to understand something. I'm gonna read a part about this stuff later, right? What they now listen. It was okay for this person who graduated from here, right, to start this petition. That's okay, right? Even though they graduated 12 years ago, that's okay for them to do that, right? You're about to hear me read something about what these people did, okay, who were working there at the time, okay? And it's going to blow your mind that there was even pushback from it. But here we go. The vice president's planned appearance at the Evangelical College has become a lightning rod in the intensifying debate over faith and politics. The blowback comes as Pence seeks to fend off recent criticism from Pete. Is that Buttigieg? The mayor of South Bend, an upstart presidential contender, over religious justifications for his hardline social policies on issues such as abortion and same-sex marriage. The Democratic candidate, who has labeled the vice president a cheerleader of the porn star presidency, is aiming to break the Republican hold of the devout on the devout. Pence dismissed what he calls the attacks on my Christian faith. Meanwhile, as the commencement controversy deepened this week, Christian leaders and conservative news outlets closed ranks around Pence. The reaction to dissent from some students, faculty, and alumni revealed not only the tight embrace binding the religious right to the Trump administration, but also the right-wing medium's alacrity in painting protesting students as oversensitive. Let me see if this word right here means something. Let me see. Oh, I love it. Brisker chill for readiness. I love it. Anyway, I didn't take it as anything bad when I read it, just because it's about the right-wing media. We're talking about Trump. So, just their willingness to kiss ass. That's all that is. And being ready to do it. On Monday, Fox and Friends featured an alumnus who thanked the school for standing firm and refusing to bow to students' demands. From there, the story tore through the conservative web, the latest indication to these outlets. The students were interested in opposing viewpoints. The website's Town Hall and PJ Media wrote incredulously of those who said they were shaking or ashamed over the announcement. On Tuesday, Franklin Graham, the Christian evangelist and son of Billy Graham. There we go. Franklin Graham, the Christian evangelist and son of Billy Graham, weighed in on Facebook. What are these people smoking? He asked to incite to Paul's letter to the Galatians. This is funny, which forms the ninth book of the New Testament. This reminds me of Paul's words, "You foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you?" I'll stop right there. The same guy he's using is the same guy that the fag people and the people who think that you can have abortions are going to use to justify their wickedness. Word? Understand, man. This guy Paul is wicked all the way through. He's the devil. Just like Billy Graham and his son. Graham, who argues that Trump defends the faith, even if he is not the best example of Christian faith, concluded of Pence, there couldn't be a better, more qualified, more inspirational speaker for graduates to hear from, or a better example for them to follow in life. Students and alumni who added their names to the online petition expressed varied objections. From Pence's support for the presidential conduct to his role in the 2015 implementation of Indiana's Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which critics said gave license to service providers to refuse to do business with gay and lesbian patrons. Many of those who commented cited Buttigieg as a notable counterexample from the Hoosier state. Benjamin Crapple, who said he was a graduating senior, claimed the invitation was a sign of disrespect to all non-white, non-straight students who are already pushed to the fringes of Taylor's community. An alumnus, Graham Hauser, argued Republican isn't Christian anymore, and this administration has made it easier than ever to see that. Not everyone was supportive of the petition's aim. "I think you are a bunch of pansies," one man wrote. "I am signing this to mock you." So understand, I'm sure he wasn't the only one who said something like that. They might have picked the most polite one to read to us, or to give to us. Come on, we'll keep it pushing. A competing petition supporting Pence as Taylor's commencement speaker has drawn nearly 2,500 signatures by Thursday. Faculty members were divided over the issue, though a majority, 61-49, voted to condemn the university's decision at a meeting last week. Trump's commencement appearance has followed a similar pattern as Pence's. Since becoming president, he has spoken at the U.S. Naval Academy, Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia, where Pence is also slated to speak next month, shortly before his remarks at Taylor University. In 2004, Trump delivered advice that resonates with new meaning, telling graduate seniors at Wagner College in Staten Island, "There's a concrete wall in front of you, go through it." Not keeping in mind the fact that in 2004, like Trump was on TV, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. I just want to throw that out there. George W. Bush was also a regular at the commencements of Christian colleges, appearing at Calvin College in Michigan and St. Vincent College in Pennsylvania, among others. His father, George W. Bush, spoke before more diverse audiences, including graduating students at Texas A&M University and the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Michigan. In 1991, the elder Bush delivered a message that could just as well come from the lips of his successors in today's Republican Party, denouncing political correctness as an insult on free speech. This is the first time in Taylor's history that a member of the executive branch will deliver a commencement address, the newspaper reported. Its sudden identification with Pence is not the first time The campus has been terrain of charged political battles. Last year, the community was roiled by the appearance of an anonymous newsletter called Excalibur. Stop right here. This is what I was talking about. Had this been had this been delivered to you, right? Right after you read about somebody who graduated years ago and started this petition, who should be all the way at, for you to be involved in the political realm and to speak on the political aspects of what another person is going to do, you're way the fuck out of line. You know what I mean? You're way the fuck out of line. And then number two, for people to be still working as faculty members, to have an issue with where they think that the way things are going, for them to speak up about it, and for them to become victims in a sense, bullshit. But we'll keep reading. Last year, the community was roiled by the appearance of an anonymous newsletter called Excalibur, which featured jeremiads about colleges' permissive views of human sexuality, hostility towards creationist perspectives, rejection of the rule of law, especially on the immigration issue, and uncritical endorsement of liberal progressive ideas. Its aim, the handout stated, was to foster a conservative underground that could oppose leftist trends more vehemently than official outlets allow, according to Insider Higher Ed. The university president said the anonymity of the project, even if it had the best intentions, sowed discord and distrust, hurting members of our community. Four members of the faculty, staff eventually came forward to claim responsibility for the publication. They were a professor of philosophy and religion. Stop. So understand, the dirty bastard earlier, certain churches on fire, was a philosophy teacher too. Man. But in this case, you got one who's like, look, bro, I don't believe in homosexuality. This shit is crazy. There's a battle within the church right now. Okay. How long do you think they're going to keep this one up? The Bible, the whole thing, if you read it all the way through and understand it, only one guy is going against the scripture, all in all. His name is Paul. Dirty ass bastard. Let me just keep reading though, finish it out. They were a professor of philosophy and religion, professor of biblical studies, a men's soccer coach, and a marketing director. They're all guys. In a column in the campus newspaper, a student, Haley Owens, strained to find a righteous response to that flare. Because we're a Christian collective, we're expected to extend grace to them. Yet grace is given by too many of us on a daily basis, she wrote. Yeah, she's right. Yeah. You couldn't be telling the truth evermore, young lady. Some of these dirty bastards who don't deserve no grace or mercy, and they get it every day. Anyway, give me a second. I'm about to kill this real quick. Yeah. Stop that. Stop that. No. Go ahead and get it popping. So now I can really talk about wet fabric, wet towels, how they really work. So in this situation right here, right? Obviously, there's two things going on. And I'm going to show you how one is them trying to use the fabric to put out the flame. There's several flames here. So there's different pieces of fabric. And then there's another one where they're trying to use the fabric, but it's wet and it won't unfold from itself. It's like it's sticking together. So the first one is you have a guy named Mike Pence, who we already all know is racist as fuck. He could tell you he's not. And he could even come off even half-assed genuine, but we all know he's used the word nigger and he liked it. So, uh, and it's not like he just used it once. He used it. He probably still uses it on a regular basis. So it's one of those things where you have people trying to fight what they think is righteous or wrong. I, I I'm not gonna say that it's neither right nor wrong. I'm just gonna say that the dude is he's a character. You know, he's a character just like the rest of us. So if you let that character play you, then he's gonna play you. You understand what I'm saying? It's not about uh, it's not about he's the vice president. What it's about is that the dude went to the school and became the vice president. And before he was the vice president, he was the governor. And he was on, the state council and stuff like that. So when you talk about the importance of his appearance, it would be just like if they had any kind of famous people who ever, like went to that school, which is why, I'm sure the university has something to do with playing both sides of this, uh, because it's great publicity for them either way, because nobody knows about this little ass college, of 2,500. So the idea is that Pence really didn't do anything wrong. They just don't like him. Because they don't like him, they're like, you know what? Let's bitch about it, right? And then let's make a thing where he's kind of the focal point. Now let's talk about the fabric and the wetness of it. So they tried to put the fire out of him being, like I told you, the father, uh, the father looking figure, right? By saying, well, he doesn't believe in gay people. He doesn't believe, if you're once again non-white, non-straight, that to go ahead and put. I don't like how they try to lump black people. I don't stand up for fucking homosexuality. That's not cool. So that's the type of shit I'm talking about. Is like where there's multiple fires burning. Okay, by them sending Mike Pence, he's a wet blanket himself because he's meant to go and reaffirm their Christian values. I'm married to a woman. You feel me? I have a wife with children. You know what I'm talking about? You know, and sure, yeah, the guy that I'm partnered with is who he is, but he's the reason why I'm able to enforce or to maybe throw around my weight a way I was never able to before. And so you have to realize that it's multi-pronged. It's not just one way that the wet fabric works. And it was supposed to be called wet towel because people fold like wet towels most of the time. But I was thinking, I said, if you get a blanket wet, and you throw it over a fire, that can very well smolder a fire. I've seen it done. So there's more than one use to it, but it depends on how it's being used because like I wrote, in the description boxes, is nobody wants to lay down with the wet blanket though. You don't want to sleep with the wet blanket. So it, wet fabric only has so many uses, you know. Um and then after all the uses, then it just becomes a detriment. And you have to start to look at these people at what level is what they're doing a detriment. Like for example, the little Satanist dude who set the fucking churches on fire. That dude's a Satanist. The white boy who did that is a Satanist. Okay, his father is a deputy down there, and y'all gotta understand. These guys are in damn old, damn old Louisiana now, okay? Where they practice hoodoo and voodoo and all kinds of black magic down there. So it wouldn't surprise me if this dude family, a family of people who fake to be Christian, but they really worship the devil or devils, whatever devil they choose to worship. That wouldn't surprise me, man. So when you talk about these types of things, you have to realize, the wet blanket they threw in that situation was they made it to where his father, who should have been held accountable to every regards, you know, how does a person set some shit on fire and they don't smell like the fire at all? Like most people stick around. If you've ever seen a fire set, they'll stay there to see how much damage the fire does. You see what I'm saying? So it's not a it's not a thing of it's not a thing of just knowing that that you have to hold somebody accountable, right? It's knowing that I know that you did this. I know you did this. You follow me? But beyond me knowing that you did it, I can prove you did it, and there's nothing else to add. So it's like when you have these guys who have these philosophies in their minds, and they all don't look exactly the same, but they look similar. But then you got other guys who have, I don't know, similar views and beliefs, but yet they act in the whole other fringe things. This is why there's a debate. This is why there's a discussion. This is why I'm able to call it what I'm calling it, wet fabric, because that's what it is. It is complicated. You know, it's either helpful or it's hurtful. No in between. And the only time it's helpful is normally in a situation where there's some type of emergency or normally it's an emergency, medical or non-medical, it doesn't matter. Uh, Outside of that, it's normally hurtful. Have you ever dealt with a freaking towel that was wet, that just held together, or clothes that got wet? How they wouldn't come off your body easily? Wet fabric is a bitch. So when I speak to it, you have to relate it to all the different ways that wet fabric can bother you or assist you. And this is what I'm saying is that Mike Pence coming there is like a person showing up in with the wet socks today. How long can I take it? I'm talking about super wet socks. No, they're like, fuck that. I gotta change. I gotta get out these socks and these shoes. I gotta get some new shoes and some new socks. Shoes are ruined, socks are ruined. It's like that. So because they don't want to deal with the situation, they don't want to say, okay, I'll tough it out for an hour or so or 2 hours or whatever. Hear what this man has to say, being uncomfortable. They'd rather complain about the situation. Or if they're not complaining, they just would rather address the situation the best way that they know how. You follow me? Uh, the entire thing is really unfortunate. It really is. Because this is telling me like we're closer than I thought we were to some crazy stuff happening. This is where he's from. This is his base. Now, granted, this could be a little political scheme. Uh, who knows? But if you're reading it closely, there's a large enough population of non-white, non-straight people who go to that school to turn the tide. Mm. Only 2,500 people who go there. So how many of them could be homosexuals? And then if that's the case and you're a Christian evangelical school, why are they being accepted there? Come on. See, that's man, the whole shit is so deep. But once again though, because people don't want to look at the wholeness of the situation, they can't really even understand. They can't understand how well will detract from this situation, and I'm gonna talk about Trump just real quick. And if you look at Trump's situation, right, how he threw a wet towel, or I don't know the media. I don't know because the media was kind of at him like how the whole thing was handled. There was a big ass wet blanket thrown over everything, because there was supposed to be a fire there, and right now people are just seeing the smoke from certain stuff, and what was supposed to have undone them or made them come undone was a situation with the little chick, Stormy Daniels or whatever her face is, and and with her, that was supposed to really like hurt him, and it didn't. And so when it didn't do him in, when it didn't bing bop him the way that they thought it would, you know, he was able to step back from it. And he maintained one thing throughout the entire gathering of information for the report was there is no collusion. Right on. So he didn't say that I didn't commit no crimes. He didn't say that I've never done anything immoral. He just said that come for the election. No, I won fair and square. You feel me? I whooped their ass. And I don't want to hear that I cheated. That's bullshit. You know what I mean? He's like, you guys didn't do this for George Bush, and that's what he really wanted to say. You know, he said, in the thing, like this should never happen to another president. But he was taking another wet blanket and he was throwing it out there like, yo, because he's assuming that there'll never be another black president, right? So he's like, you know, doesn't really matter who it is, but I'm assuming in his mind he's like, there'll never be another black guy who's president. So another white guy should never have to ever go through that. You feel me? He's like, because you guys didn't put Obama through no shit like that. You guys didn't try to search for this nigga's fucking social security and all that shit. You guys didn't do all that to him. So he's like, right, let me go ahead and just toss this little piece of information out there and just say like, yo, yeah, nobody else should ever have to go through that. Now, do I agree with that? Not necessarily, but do I understand where he's coming from? I totally get the point of view. I mean, at face value, it makes perfect sense at face value. But when you actually analyze the nature of of the ways of human beings, no, you actually couldn't stick to that because people do too many things that are nefarious that have to be looked into or looked at, in a certain light, in a certain way, so that way you understand what they're up to. So when you have a guy like Trump, and once again, this is a beautiful, I love it. I've been confident in this situation for a long time. Me and Jeff talk about this all the time, and we're always like, yeah, man, I wish I had just said something on the internet before. And he's like, man, I wish we had just put some money down and bet money that Trump was going to be president, because we got paid. Um, Like this time around, not I mean, like Bernie Sanders has no steam. Last time around though, he had bro had juice like a 1976 bodybuilder. Okay, Cuddy had juice, and it was way different. Once he fell out, I was like, oh, it's over. Trump got it. Like I knew it. And I never really said it to anybody, but that's why I never talked about the elections. And you can go back and you can listen to my videos. The most I really said was just don't vote. It doesn't really matter, you know. But I knew who was going to win, you know. So it don't really matter to me. Uh, and that's just one of those things where I'm trying to tell y'all this is what's going to happen. Okay, that college admission shit. Do y'all see the wet fabric that they're trying to throw on that situation right now? See, the wet fabric that they're trying to throw on it is by not talking about it very much. But there's another piece of wet fabric, right, that they're trying to throw onto it, but they're trying to unfold it, but it's nasty stuck together. So they're as they're trying to unfuck it, the flame is still building, and the flame to it is where does this go once they start to realize, well, it doesn't end at just admissions. It doesn't end just there. It there's people who cheated to get all types of grants they weren't supposed to have. There's people who cheated to get all types of loans they weren't supposed to have. Right. Wet fabric is filthy, vicious, nasty. It can either help you or it can hurt you. And in this situation for the college admissions, hurting them all the way. And I love it. And there's going to be so many people in the next. I don't think it's going to take them a year to really start taking action, But let's just say a year from now, it's gonna fuck the world up because uh, people's trash bills haven't exactly skyrocketed. But I've noticed the trash situation around my building has changed. The whole thing is way different now. They have one large dumpster. They removed all the recycling bins from out here, from like the one area that they're in to outside, and they even got rid of some of them. Uh, they haven't implemented more money into the rent yet for it because it hasn't totally kicked in like the actual cost of doing business. But then again, we live on the West Coast and we live close to the water, so it's different. Places that are more or less in the Midwest that just don't have any access to any real waterways, it might be a little different for them. But I can only imagine how much longer that this whole system can can keep all this stuff up, y'all. How, when are they going to say, you know what, we're coming after everybody who has delinquent debts? If you owe more than $20,000 and that's 20,000, you know what I mean, including the interest, and let's say you started at owing just $3,000 or $4,000, but this is accrued over the last almost 20 years. They're like, yeah, we're coming after you because you're not going to pay us. You haven't shown any initiative to pay us. You know, like they're going to pick and choose who gets leniency and who gets mercy, and they're going to stick and crucify all the rest of those that they don't want to feel any of that. And there's not going to be any wet fabric to put that fire out. Trust and believe it. There's not going to be a wet blanket to put that fire out, y'all. There's not one big enough for it. And that's what scares me the most for most of my people because it's like, do they understand what's coming? Do they even know what's coming? Do they even get it? This shit is no joke. Oh, you think they're gonna just fuck over the rich people and poor people won't feel anything from it? When has that ever been like that? One of the funniest things, people people will run their mouths about a guy like Bernie Madoff, but they forget Bernie Madoff hit for like $8 billion, okay, and fucked up the lives of thousands, tens of thousands of retirees and regular Americans, right? I'm pretty sure that killed some of those old people. However, we all know that Bernie Madoff wasn't in it by himself. He couldn't have been. It's impossible. But we also know that Bernie Madoff made a situation that most people would never even look at. He made it like famous. Like when I think of Ponzi schemes, I think of Bernie Madoff. Okay, that's who I think of first. Like that's the first guy I can think of. Like a real Ponzi scheme that like killed people's ambitions and hopes. Like I said, $8 billion. So uh, you might go back and look at it and like and it'll say like 4.5 billion or whatever. But like I remember Ali Velshi and other guys talking about it. They were like, really, it's like $8 billion because you, there was all these different little fees that weren't included in all the money that he stole. Right on. And so they're like, really, it's closer to 8 billion. But that's the type of shit I'm talking about. Is you have these types of situations that have gone down and they've gone totally, nothing's happened, right? But you know who suffered from that? The poor people, the little people that he fucked around. So if you don't think that this college admission shit, okay, where Maybe dude didn't take any money to get somebody into school, but maybe he may have been like, you know what? I know an excellent grant writer. He can write you a beautiful grant. You'll get grants for the rest of of your time in school. You don't know because you're not them. I don't know because I'm not them. And that's where this shit boils down to is everybody who's involved. But that Bruce Isaacson guy, trust and believe, if him and his wife don't come up dead, they're going to tell on everybody. And there's going to be more schools, more colleges that are implicated in this shit in the end. That's a fact. That's not a joke. It's the only way that it goes. See, and this is why I steadily stress all the things that I stress. Because when you don't follow a situation like this really closely and you don't pay attention to what little things that they will tell you, when they start to say shit like, yeah, some 2 or 3 thousand, students implicated, or being indicted and possible charges involving the admission schemes, and then there's like some shit that has to do with like how they paid for school or the type of test that they took. Oh man, it's gonna be crazy. And I'm just waiting for the black person because I haven't seen any black people who are like students, right? But I'm just waiting for that black person who's a student who gets caught up in this shit because they're gonna come after every black person that there is, you know. Especially though, once again, those with delinquent money loans, you know, you know, they will be like, yeah, we need that back. And what are they gonna say? No, ridiculous. Let me say this right here before I roll out too. I'm working on a little thing, not a video. It was gonna be a video, but it takes days to do those videos sometimes, right? Because I might put some stuff together and then I might scrap a whole idea and then I might go back and redo it. So I haven't really been feeling the whole video thing lately, but I do have this concept I want to run by you guys, and it's going to be another little white heaven thing called King Khan, right? And I might call it the American Dream or something like that, in the end, like the King Kong, American Dream, or it's going to be something silly, but it's going to be King Kong for sure. And I just want to show you guys the uh, the lie that's been told to us for forever. You know, just breaking outside of this before I get ready to head on out because I got to work today, so I gotta get ready to go to work. But King Khan is going to really talk about how if that this is what I want y'all to think about. And ladies, don't rub this shit in black men's face. It's not to be rubbed in a black man's face. But if you look at slavery and how it really worked out, right? One of the biggest cons that we were told as black people was that the master just forcibly always made himself known to the people by just taking as many women as he could and giving babies to all of them. It couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. Uh, um, what you had that was more prevalent goes lesser talked about, and it might even be lesser known. Uh, is the I don't know how you would put it. It's like white women pretty much raping black men. It's the only way I can say it. Uh, and sure they weren't physically like overpowering these dudes or whatever, but it was like I'm pretty sure it was situations that are like, if you don't do it, I'm gonna say you raped me anyway. So it doesn't matter if you do it or you don't. And I'm sure that's how they ended up in a lot of these situations with these dudes. You know, outside of these guys giving them eyes or them giving these dudes eyes when these motherfuckers are working and stuff like that. Which is why, which is why the Willie Lynch letters, for what it's worth, told people to keep the slaves away from the house. You see? But I'm gonna break down how the reason why I know that most mulattoes came from black men and white women is because years later, when now that interracial dating and marriage and all that, there's nothing they can do about it, right? You know who does it the most? Black men. Still, the numbers bear it out. So dudes could try to deny it, but the numbers bear it out, and the numbers bear it out so much so to where like it would make you assume, well, either you're telling me that these black guys have no control, have no sexual discipline over self, and never wanted to be with black women to begin with, or or this is a long-standing situation that has always been prevalent in this country, and it was merely addressed, or there was wet fabric thrown on top of it, okay, to make it seem like that's not what it is. Okay. All right. So they've muddied the waters with the understanding of what people even know about. And people are like, oh, Meat, you don't know what you're saying. It's like, look, you have cats who argue if they brought women over here or not with the men. You have people who literally try to argue this shit. So it's like, because you have folks who really believe that it was just black Negro men mating with Aboriginal women, and I know that's the furthest thing from the truth, because you have people who can believe things like that, why am I wrong? Or how could I be off to imply what I'm implying right now? You know, you can't think the best of a group of people who have made it their point to lie. Once again, if black women were the concubines of white men, you would see that all the time, everywhere. Everywhere. It's not like that. And the chicks that I see like that, every time I see one of them, like 98% of the time, they look totally like they look like they're either caught up or they're ashamed or a little bit of both. I mean, it's so rare that they look shameless, but they just don't care. Like, yeah, I'm proud to be with this white guy. It's almost never like that. So, because I pay attention, excuse me, because I pay attention, I'm just coming at it from my point of view. I'm not saying that this is the reality that you're going to perceive, but when I break it all down to you, where I'm like, once again, show me the money. Who do you think they were trying to get rid of? Their mulatto grandsons in the Civil War. Right. Their quadroon and octoroon grandsons in the Civil War, who came from God, God forbidden relationships from their daughters. Yeah, there was a whole bunch of poor white guys that had a whole bunch of boys, but there were a shit ton of poor white people that had almost nothing but daughters. Slavers. Slavers. Whose daughters grew up around black people, accustomed to them. And they didn't have enough time to breathe the hate into their daughters, to hate these dudes. So now, right, she's akin to them, pregnant by one of them. Oh my goodness. Now I gotta put her away and keep her, away because she's gonna be raising this damn nigger baby. This is how it really went. So because people don't look at the situation, with both eyes open, King Khan is really gonna give them, some I'm still getting some more information together. I probably need like another almost a whole week just to be safe. But I'm just gonna drop it. It's just gonna be a live stream I do out of nowhere. There's not gonna be no There's not gonna be no time thing on it. It's just gonna just be at like the drop of a hat. And the reason why I'm letting y'all know is because I need y'all really to get how they did all of it. You know what I mean? Another con that they try to sell off to the people is that they try to make it seem as if slaves or black people were not industrious, but you can't you can't go from being people who have all physical hand skills at the time and some more shit, right? To being free people and not having the ability to thrive. It's impossible. It took the Jim Crow laws to beat the skills and the ability to pass down the skills that take time to master out of black people. This was a concerted effort. And King Khan will have you to believe that these black people were just poor cotton picking sharecroppers who were too dumb to read contracts, right on, who were too dumb to understand the exact nature, you know what I'm saying, as it was germane to the language used to write the contract. Anyway, see, this is the type of shit I'm talking about right here. They'll tell you all these things because it sounds good. But what's true, what's honest, is never what they want to, impart onto you. Let me go ahead and get off my soapbox, and let me get back to this weekly update. I love holding these weeks to the fire. Today is April 18th. We're a third of the way into the year, y'all. And no paratroopers, no nukes, no EMPs, no nothing. I'm not saying it's safe to say that we're going to get out this year and make it into 2020. But I just wanted y'all to understand that this year has to be, still will be held to the fire in the sense that I'm just watching how it's all going because I believe in different things. I believe in prophecies that may take more than a year to come all the way into fruition. But if they started it this year, really they started before this year. They started a couple years ago. But if they really started to come into fruition in this year and to bud into something else in the latter years, I can take that. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, they're gonna have portions of the wall finished and and each part of every state that it's about to be in before this year is over with. Have y'all read about the crisis that they're going down through and all these border towns? You don't think, once again, man, this immigration thing, right, is about to blow up. About to blow up. Because when the immigrants, see, here's the thing that some of these brothers don't realize. When they talk all that shit, well, where are they sending these immigrants? Where are they sending them? They're sending them to rural fucking towns, dog. Right. Towns that are already stretched thin on their resources for their poor white citizens. And now you want me to take care of this guy who's from south of the border and his whole family and families of them. Right. That's the issue. Give me one moment. My alarm. But however, you got these people who are pressed, who are super duper pressed right now. You know, they're sitting at the south of the border at these border towns and they're like, look, man, these guys are coming. Nobody's stopping them. And it's been happening for years. There's people who are like, yeah, a big ass wall is going to stop you from coming here. Right. You can't just come here, have a baby, boom, and then you're good. You can just stay here. Right. That's how they're looking at it. And do I really care? No, I couldn't care less. Black people have nothing to be worried about. Nothing. Nothing. When they try to say, well, all these cities have lost their black populations, that's because those black populations have moved into places that either had no black populations or very little black populations and have increased those black populations in those places. That's what's happened. We haven't just died off and become non-existent. We didn't just bam bomb minutia in thin air. So it's like, don't worry about all that. You just worry about staying alive. But on top of all that, you worry about what matters the most. You see what I'm saying? And what matters the most is that there's prophecies. There are things that are destined to happen, right? By divine mandate, have to happen. That we're waiting to take place. We must see in our lifetime. Or somebody must see in their lifetime. The broad wall of Babylon, broad walls, excuse me, are being built right now. The high gates with them. They're going to have these specialized areas that people have to come through, okay? That they don't look like gates. I mean, they're not called gates, but they look just like them. It's going to be epic. I've already seen a little video. I got to try to find it and, just upload it. It's very interesting what's going on right now, y'all. Very interesting. And the wet fabric that they're trying to throw over the whole situation to make us either uncomfortable, to put out a fire, right? Or the wet fabric that just won't come undone and it won't come off of our body is just stuck where we are getting to see the full effectiveness of its nature and why it is so detrimental that we see everything that's going on. It really is a big deal. See, I come with all these different little articles so that way you can see different little parts of how different little things shape up. They all seem unrelated, but really that church fire stuff is totally related. Whether it happened down there in Louisiana, or it's happening over there in New York, or it's happening in Notre Dame. Okay, all those situations are relevant to one another. You know, when you read about the political atmosphere here in America, and then you read about the political atmosphere over there in China, and then you read about the political atmosphere over there in the UK, London, England, all that stuff. All those things are relevant to one another. Okay, don't worry, we're gonna have a lot of time to get some stuff right. But as for this is concerned, I'm off tomorrow. I'm doing another thing tomorrow. Don't worry. Tomorrow and the day after, I got something for everybody. I got to just take my car to this little spot, get it diagnosed, see what it, see outside of this heating core, see what I need to get replaced, make a little list, and then slowly grind to get all this stuff replaced, and then call it a day. Give me something to do. But outside of that, I got nothing else. And I've got to figure out how to get an old PC. Look, I got these old school National Geographics, right? And they freaking only work on like Windows 95, Windows 3.1. They won't upload. They won't upload. So I have to figure out. So I'll have to figure out how I can get it to play on something else, and hopefully download it to my computer so that way I can show you guys, or just upload it as a video. But either way, you know what I mean. I just got to figure it out. However, black people, please keep your eyes on the signs of the times because things are going to get crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier. Now, there's going to be small moments of reprieve, but there's going to be so much crazy shit that just jumps off in the next, you know, 4 or 5 months that just buckle up, because it's about to get, super done. Just pray for the people that you know, and for the people that you know that are up to no good. Pray that they change their ways. Don't let them put wet fabric on you. And if you don't have to wear it around, do not. It is uncomfortable. And nobody likes the feeling of squishy socks or a wet shirt or wet drawers. But sometimes you have to put up with things. So know the difference. With that said, much appreciated. Much love. Don't allow for me to bring down your week. Have a blessed week. Regardless of what I say, I'm just a lowly messenger. Just trying to keep you guys informed on things that people don't want to talk about. All right, I'm out.